Hey everyone, I'm Navek here, and this is part 2 of our special Halloween update. And for this one, we're going to be talking about the JOJOLands. I actually want to start covering in this series when new chapters come out month to month, and so I figured I'd give you guys a small little crash course on what it is before I start covering it, especially since it's currently in the middle of a two-parter, or at least the first part of a new arc started. So, the heck is the JoJoLands? Well, basically, it's part 9 of the long-running battle series, It's JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. If you've watched anime, read any manga, you've you've probably seen JoJo's Bizarre Adventure referenced. This thing has like the series has had an insane amount of impact on Japanese media, and now even modern media, because even the Miles Morales Spider-Man comic, they kind of straight up JoJo reference. It's recently, and there's a reason why it's that. JoJo's Bizarre Adventure is legitimately one of the best comics ever made from any side of the globe. And yes, I am one of those people who just absolutely loves JoJo's. It's definitely been a major influence on my own writing. And I figured I'd be doing a show that talks about comics a disservice if I wasn't talking about one of the best. I'd worry about getting copyright strike, but my channel's too small for anyone to notice. But what exactly is the JoJoLand specifically? And yeah, one of the best things about JoJo is you can basically go into any art without real and kind of enjoy it on its own merit, because the show series does a pretty good job explaining any tie-ins and stuff. Oh, so what the JoJoLands is, it's a story set in modern-day Hawaii, and our titular JoJo, is none other than Jodio Joestar. And Jodio, I'm gonna be honest, he's kind of a psychopath. As like this dude, we're introduced to him beating the shit. Our first big action scene is him beating the shit out of a bunch of cops that tried to molest his older sibling, in which you could argue that the cops definitely deserved it, but still, it was pretty brutal. But that's actually the thing about Jodio. Despite the fact that he is vicious, that he's a drug mule, that he has been diagnosed as being kind of a sociopath. One thing that has been fun to see is that he genuinely has a virtuous side, especially when it comes to protecting Dragonia and his friends. And his stand is also one of the cooler ones I've seen out of the main JoJo. Or at least that's something I like. It's called November Rain, and aside from having this weird skeletal spider body thing, its main ability is that it can create heavy rain. I mean, we see mostly Jodio use this in fights to hold his opponents down and attack people who are under the water, but we also see that because Jodio himself is immune to the rain, its effect, he can use it to do cool shit like blocking bullets at point blank range, like in the latest chapters. So yeah, leave it to Araki that all these years later still surprised me with how versatile a stand can be. But yeah, I mentioned Jodio was a drug mule, and he's actually part of a gang alongside. And yeah, okay, before I get to the gang, let's talk about Jodio's whole thing. He also talks about mechanisms. Basically, they're kind of the invisible things that make society and the world work. Like, say, the mechanism of how having a good reputation can lead to you having a better life overall in society. And Jodio's whole thing is that he wants to earn enough money so that he and his family can just live a peaceful life. And so yeah, let's get to the other members of his gang and his Joe Bros. So you got Dragonia Joestar, who is Jodio's older brother, but they do dress as a woman. So, and I've heard there's a kind of debate on what Dragonia's pronouns are, but I'm just gonna stick with they them. That's kind of seems what the official translations are going for. Or their stand is called Smooth Operators. It's basically a bunch of tiny little machines that can move stuff, which again, that doesn't sound like an impressive power, but it's JoJo's. Araki always finds a way to show how effective they could be. And yeah, Dragonia is kind of the level-headed pseudo leader of the gang. And they're usually the one who's outwardly the most caring, but caring, and obviously they care about Jodio to a good degree. Then there's Paco. Paco's whole thing. Paco is a kleptomaniac. He kind of the most hot blood of the group. And his stand is called the Hustle. And yeah, it's a weird one. He basically can contract his muscles to hold stuff, which again sounds like a weird power. But Paco has been shown to use this complete muscle control to do stuff like, as you see here, crawling up a tree without using his hands. And yeah, he also used it to block a knife that he was attacked with one time. And my headcanon is that basically, since according to Jodio, Paco used to be fat, that he's basically using his stand and to maintain that six pack of his. So yeah, not really much. We don't really know much about Paco so far. But his stand is pretty cool. He's basically the muscle of the group. Then there's Usagi, and Usagi is so far my favorite character. He is an absolute weirdo. Oh, supposedly he's a drug addict, but honestly, we've seen him garf down more fast food than taking any drugs. He also dresses like a character Filthy Frank would probably. He has an outfit that Filthy Frank would probably wear in an old video of his. But one thing I like about him, aside from him being funny and bringing some general levity to the series, is the fact that there's this like running trope in JoJo's where something weird will happen and characters will second guess of whether or not it's a stand attack when it's JoJo, so it's always a stand. It's the work of an enemy stand. Usagi usually is the first person that as soon as he sees something weird happening, he immediately jumps to it's an enemy stand, which makes him one of the most meta-aware characters in JoJo ever. But he's also the polar F of the group, so he's not really taken seriously by the rest of the group, and he's usually the first one to get attacked by an enemy stand. Hell, in the latest arc, he's being attacked by a virus stand, and then he's the first one to go. But he also knows a bunch of weird and random knowledge. It kind of reminds me of how Dan from Dan Versus had seemingly random knowledge about stuff. And fittingly, his stand is also weird. It's called the Mate Kudasai. It's a tiny little bird thing that can duplicate anything in a nearby object, but here's the thing. Usagi cannot use this power. Someone else has to ask the Mate Kudasai to duplicate it. So yeah, Usagi's stand is literally not meant for direct combat, and he can't even use it himself. So that's interesting. And that's a good way to provide a limit for a stand that could be seemingly broken. And one of their latest people is a guy called Charming Man. And Charming Man, and basically, he was kind of one of those Joe Bros who started off as an enemy of the group, but then he ended up joining them. And his whole thing is that he's tied into like one of the big MacGuffins of the series called the Lava Rock. I'll get to that in a sec. But yeah, Charming Man, and his whole deal is that his brother went missing while investigating the Charming Rock, in the lava rocks, and he wants to figure out what's going on. His stand is called the Big Mouth Strikes Again, which basically allows him to disintegrate himself to blend into the scene around him and detach his limbs. So it made him a really scary opponent when he first saw. And yeah, he's also kind of hot-headed. Not as much as Paco, but still, he has been an interesting member of the cast. So, and of course, what's the deal with the lava rock? Yeah, I've been using the TV tropes page in the wiki. So the lava rock is a weird. It's one of the many weird things in the new JoJo universe from part 7 onwards. It basically attracts anything of worth to its current owner, as the page says. As the gang stole it from a manga artist called Rohan Kishibe, and basically they plan on using the lava rock's ability to attract stuff, to attract anything worth value to them in order to make a shit ton of money. But of course, that puts them under the gaze of the Howler Group. Basically, they're a big corporation, and that's been buying up land and in Hawaii, and basically creating an environment that, well, makes it so that kids like Jodio have to take up being part of the drug trade in order to at least have a decent life. And Howler, so far what we know about Howler, is their president. Aka Howler seems like kind of your stereotypical rich dipshit. And he sent 2 assassins, and after the gang. Lulu, who Stan Bag Grooves is basically the cause of the virus Stan that's currently killing Usagi. And yeah, as we later see near the end of the series, near the end of the newest chapter, after it's now started to affect Jodio. But they're also being attacked by Bobby E. Jean, and I kind of like Bobby Jean. Like he seems like one of those guys who basically assassination is just his job. He's just a guy going into work. Or he's kind of like Whole Horse if he wasn't a douchebag. I'm not really sure exactly what his stand and direct power is. He seems to be able to just shoot bullets without making noises. And able to shoot them at different directions. But we do see that he's a pretty intelligent combatant. Like, at the end of the latest chapter, or he's chasing after Jodio, figuring he'd hide in the boys' bathroom, and it would be too obvious for him to, just attack. So he purposely opens the door and pulls his gun into the girls' bathroom, thinking Jodio would attack him from the back, which obviously Jodio did. But Jodio sees almost too late that Bobby Jean's already fired and uses November Rain again to block bullets at point blank. Again, yeah, that's a typical Iraqi reversal right there. And yeah, JoJo's is still really good even after all these years. Araki's still been killing it on it, and I really am curious to see what happens with Jodio and the gang. I'm really liking this gang of JoJo and this JoJo and his Joe Bros, because they kind of give me the same vibes that the Bucciarati gang had in part 5. I also definitely want to see what the hell's going on with the lava rocks, because with the Saints Corpse in part 7, and then the holes and the rock holes in part 8, alongside the Rokaka plants, and now the lava rock. Araki really likes his weird geographical MacGuffins. So yeah, we'll have to see where this goes over the next few years. So yeah, that's about where we are in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Part 9, the JoJoLands. And the next chapter comes out on November 19th. And I'll be there to cover it. Alright. Also, in case anyone is wondering, my favorite parts are Part 2, Part 4, and Part 5. My favorite JoJo is Joestar, with Josuke as a close second. And my favorite stand is Mista's Sex Pistols, Koichi's Echoes, and also Silver Chariot, and Polnareff's Silver Chariot. My favorite villain is a tie between Yoshikage Kira and Diavolo. I've been really enjoying Part 9. I hope you guys will stick with me for this bizarre adventure, and thank you for tuning in to this special second part of the Halloween special. I'll see you next time. I'm fellow Joe Bros.